Welcome back to Commodity Champions. And the sugar industry is expecting a fresh boost after Food Minister Pralhad Joshi hinted at a possible ethanol price hikes for the 2024-25 season. He also suggested a review of the MSP of sugar, which has remained unchanged since Feb 2019. Besides this, the industry is also hoping that the government will review sugar exports, as they believe India will have a room to export 20 lakh tons of sugar this year. The industry is optimistic about the country's 20% blending target that has been set for March 2026. I caught up with Ravi Gupta of Shree Renuka Sugars, Gautam Goyal of Dhampur Bioorganics, and Avantika Saraugi of Balrampur Chini Mills. Listen into these conversations.
The deliberation about enhancing the program from 20% to beyond has already started. Niti Aayog is in discussion on that. Then there are also parallel discussion on blending ethanol with the diesel, which will create a huge requirement. So as far as ethanol industry is concerned, I think the demand side, there is huge. And you see, look at the bigger aspect. We are 85% dependent on imported fuel for our transportation, and we have just not yet reached 20%, which I'm sure will reach next year. So there is a lot of scope to increase this blending in petrol and diesel. So I'm absolutely not worried on the demand side of the ethanol. And I think going forward, as we have achieved in the past, but in the future also, I'm very, very optimistic that more demand will be created and the production will match accordingly.
So when it comes to vehicles, when it comes to ethanol as an innovation, where do you see the next step for the sugar industry?
See, we are a growing country, and the GDP is growing. When GDP grows, the automobile population will grow. Demand for fuels will continue to rise. We're rising at the rate of 7%. I think it will go beyond, because as the GDP becomes higher, I don't see any challenge to the demand of ethanol in the time to see. And as far as moving to the other areas, yes, why not? The innovation and research should continue to go on. We should find more avenues where the sugarcane juice and sugarcane can be used, maybe in the bioplastics, which has already happened, maybe green hydrogen. We should work on all across. This is the area which is open for us, and this area has huge potential in many things, not only on pure fuel ethanol, but in green hydrogen, in bioplastics.
This is an ever ongoing debate about food being used for ethanol when it comes to maize and rice. And we've seen the conversations around that, especially maize, where we saw the prices run up. And there is this conversation about increase in production vis-a-vis and, bringing other crop numbers down and maize going higher. How are you reading that? And do you see a proper mix there?
Manisha, I don't think so that, it's a food versus fuel debate in India at all. India was exporting around 4 million ton of the maize, which has got for making ethanol. India is continuously trying to increase the production of maize. The area of maize is already 5% higher. There are scope of a lot of yield improvement in the maize, because the difference between the yield is close to 2 tons to 6 tons. So all these things are there. So what, in fact, with the right policy of the government, the exports have reduced, and we are using same for making ethanol. I mean, total Atmanirbhar, where we are using our home grown food maize for using the ethanol. So it is in that direction. I think the government is thinking is in the right direction. But as far as, if you ask me my priority, the fuel ethanol should be the ethanol which is most efficient. And there are studies which is already done, and none other than credible organization like FO, and a lot of studies in India as well, that ethanol is sugarcane ethanol is much more efficient in terms of water per liter of ethanol as compared to maize or as compared to rice. In terms of energy, FO study says that the sugarcane ethanol gives you 9 times of energy as compared to maize, which is 1.4. So in terms of priority, the sugarcane juice ethanol obviously come first, and then later maize, and so on and so forth.
I do understand that the industry had a lot of wishes. I mean, you got them counted as well. There were 10 of them. But what would your top 3 be?
See, the most important is that this whole industry, one of the things which is there, that FRP is our base mark for the raw material cost. So everything should be linked with the sugarcane. So MSP has not been increased since last 4-5 years, and whereas the sugarcane prices continue to increase year on year. So that correction is needed, which government is, as you have heard, is looking at it. Then ethanol has to be incentivized so that we have more and more sugar which can be converted into ethanol through sugarcane juice and bee molasses. So ethanol prices is another factor which we need to. Third most important factor is now we have to work. We have achieved a lot from 1.5% to 14% and 15%. Now we have to think beyond 20%. And to think beyond 20%, we have to now invest into the new areas like flexi-fuel cars where we can use 100% ethanol. So what is required to be done? The tax, the GST tax rationalization, which is important to build up the supply chain infrastructure, which is storage, supply, distribution. So now we have to take the next step forward, that what beyond 20%, and that is what the industry should prepare itself, both on the demand side, supply chain, as well as the raw material side. So that is what which is going forward, the industry effort is, and I think the government is quite aligned with that.
A final question. When you say the 20% blending is just right the corner and the industry is ready with it, and now we are thinking FFVs, so would you say that perhaps the both weren't worked together when it started?
See, changes always takes time. It doesn't happen in a day. And, you know, the first, far most important was to have the proof of concept, which we are very confident that the proof of concept was very good. Every stakeholder is convinced that there is possibility. You know, when 1.5% started and 20% people have so much of skepticism whether it will happen or not happen. But right today, when you're back on the target, so everybody is confident it will happen. So now it's the time that the proof of concept, which was in the past, is there, and now everybody will take action. And I'm sure that we are absolutely on the right path and very fast walking on that path. And this is what which is happening in industry, which you are seeing today. For example, if you talk in any forum, the renewable and the fuel ethanol is part of the conversation. It was not there 5 years ago because people didn't believe it. But now when people see on the ground that those things are coming up.
When the ethanol blending program was restarted by the current government, by the government under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, and they came out with a very forward-looking program. So the industry also, you know, I think played its took care and did a responsible thing and ramped up the capacity. We do believe the foundation has been laid by the sugar industry, and we will provide a stable platform to give the desired quantities. As you mentioned, the capacities right now between the sugar sector and the grain sector is probably the capacities that are already on stream provides enough ethanol for beyond E20. I think if my numbers are correct, E20 will need about, say, close to 1,000 crore liters, and the capacities which are already available will be in excess of about 1,250 to 1,300 crore liters, with further capacities coming on stream. So supply side, I don't think there will be a problem. Now, beyond E20, the policy has to be articulated, it has to be enforced, and I think that is what all of us, the manufacturers of ethanol, the consumers of ethanol, that is the vehicle, the CM, the vehicle manufacturers, whether two-wheelers or three-wheelers, are looking for that sort of policy guidelines with which they can plan their future going forward.
Going forward, I mean, there also is a conversation about sugar prices, sugar availability, sugar exports even. What are the conversations that you as an industry and as an organization having with ministries?
So see the sugar balance sheet, because again, you know, the numbers for this year, the 23-24 numbers, we know that the overall production for this year was close to 34 million tons of sugar, gross sugar production, with I think about a 2.2 million ton diversion. So we have a healthy sort of closing stock of over 8 million tons. That is keeping into account a 29 million ton consumption. Now, in the coming year, 24-25, with the monsoons being healthy and robust the way they are, the grain crop is looking good. ISMA has already gone on record saying they anticipate a sugar production of about a gross sugar production of 33.3 million tons with an upward bias. We expect a diversion of in the region of 4.5 million tons to ethanol. We should give about 450 crore liters of ethanol, plus minus maybe 25, 30 crore liters of ethanol. So that will give us a fairly robust. So we will have adequate sugar to permit about 2 million tons of export. And the international markets also are favorable at this point of time. And with the crop planting that has taken place in Maharashtra, I think it's pretty much a done deal that the 25-26 season is going to be considerably larger than this season. So we don't need a stock beyond 5.5 to 6 million tons, and it gives us enough room to export 2 million tons. And we request the government permits the export policy and allows us to liquidate our stocks, get some cash flow and breathing space, and take advantage of the upside in the international market.
All right, that is what the sugar industry is asking for. FRP, which is linked to cane prices. Also, the minimum selling price of sugar should be hiked. Ethanol prices should be revised. I mean, that could be coming any of these days. And then beyond 20% blending, what really is the plan that the government has in mind is something that the industry awaits at this point in time. But with that, that's all the time that we have on this edition of Commodity Champions. Thank you for watching.